There's a little rumor going around in the internet space that it's too crowded. And today I have Michelle Gifford on the show to talk about how you can stand out despite the crowding that's happening in our lovely internet spaces, especially our favorite, Instagram. So we'll get into that and more in the 363rd episode of the Mindful Marketing Podcast. But first, a word from our sponsor. Riverside is the all-in-one podcast recording and editing tool that I use for this right here show. I use it to edit not only the audio and the video, it is like chef's kiss magical, making the entire process so easy. Plus, I love their magic AI clips. Their little AI robot in the background pulls out the most impactful moments of the episodes without me having to comb through and do it myself, resizes them for social media. So those vertical videos you see on TikTok and Reels, those all come from Magic AI inside of Riverside. It's literally one click. It spits out 10 clips. I pick the best one and away I go. Saves me so much time. If you want to get on the Riverside train, check it out today. The link's in the show notes, and make sure to use my code DREA, D-R-E-A, at checkout to get 15% off your membership. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a good conversation. I'm excited.
I'm excited. We were talking about before that I'm just nosy. So I'm excited to be like, so what you really doing? So I'm thrilled to have this conversation, but just to kind of frame and set the stage for everyone listening, give us like the 30, 60-second spiel about you and your business.
Sure. I am an Instagram marketing and social media strategist. And I have a marketing agency where we do it for you. And I also am teaching it. And I'm also building my own brand. So I try to hit it at every side. So I am helping people who are like far along, right? And we're doing it for them in our agency. And then I'm teaching people who are starting and growing. So I am deeply entrenched every day in Instagram and where people are struggling with Instagram and what's working. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too. Because so my background for listeners and for you too, Michelle, I also owned a social media agency. And of course I teach social media as well. And like, it's one of those things where we have job security because it's always changing.
Yep.
And also like, don't try to learn this for yourself. Like this is literally our job. So come to us, get the info, get the details. So tell me, with Instagram, especially here now in 2025, there are a lot of, shall we say, trends happening. So I want to start the conversation with, someone coming into this, they're looking at the scope, they're looking at the landscape of Instagram, and they're like, how do I balance all of this? I've got the trending content and I don't know, talk about my business. So what are some of the steps that you have your clients and customers think about when they're approaching Instagram today?
Sure. So one of the things that will completely change how you show up on Instagram is to realize that different pieces of content have different goals. So, if we know that, and I'll dive in just a little bit, but if we know that, then we don't have to stress out if this one doesn't perform well, doesn't get as many views, or if this one doesn't, because we have goals. So I like to break up my content into the attract, nurture, sell method, which is what I teach. It's what my agency does. But like, we're going to create some content to attract new people in. We're also going to create some content to nurture people. And then, of course, we're going to sell too. And to realize that different pieces of content have different goals. So maybe those trends are what we jump on to attract new people in. And then we've really got to establish ourselves as the expert, as well as like get people connected to us. And so that would be more nurture content. And then we have sell content, which would be like testimonials or maybe just looking at like, look, we did this for the client and now they have this, or showing if you're a designer or something like that, where you're actually showing what you do and asking people to buy.
Do you think there's a brand that like trends don't work for at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. So I don't think trends are for everyone. I think that you can do trending audio that's, just in the background that doesn't necessarily make you play one way or the other, that can help you. But as far as trends, like you have to look at your brand and make sure, like I always look at resonance, like will this resonate with my audience? So you have people that are, maybe I should clarify, but when you're talking about trends, do you mean like people are doing this dance move or whatever?
Yeah, or even like memes and stuff. Like every time it's like the Grammys or the
Yeah.
Oscars or even like the Olympics, it's like everyone and their mom is posting a meme. And sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally can hop on this, but most of the time it's not for me. So
Yeah.
I'm always curious how people are approaching these and like, how do we decide if it is for me or if it isn't?
Yeah. So I look at timing and resonance. Those are the two things that I think about. So if it's like the Oscars and it's a week late, you missed it. You missed the boat. It's almost like the first day, that's about all you have. And that's the same with other trends. Like I always think if I've scrolled on Instagram for 5 to 10 minutes and either seen that trend more than once, or whether it's like a meme or, like around an event or not, but like, am I already annoyed with it? Okay, then I'm not going to create more content about it. The second thing is, will this resonate with my audience? And does this resonate with me? And if the answer is no, don't do it. Like there is no need to jump on a trend, especially if your energy is not there and if your audience is going to be like, meh, pass. But if there's something that you get real excited about that it would be fun and it would be easy to create, I say test it. And because that's what we're doing is like just testing content. So so I think it has there are accounts that are much more serious, right? They are the experts and they're like, hey, every day they show up and they do talking head videos. It would be weird if they were like, and then the Oscars and let's talk about like what everyone wore, right? It would not fit into their brand or their niche. But there are current events that do happen that make sense. And so we just have to be aware of that. And also just be aware when you get that ick feeling like, that's not for me, then you just don't do it. And that's totally fine. And that's why we get to build our own brands.
Yeah, I mean, I always say like you don't really know where a boundary is until you cross it or until that line is tested. And I think that's true for trends too. Sometimes you don't know how cringe it is until you do it. But I will say this too. Sometimes I love stuff and my people don't like it. Like I am a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, like literally obsessing every season, every spin-off season. I listen to podcasts about the show. Like I am a little too far gone. And there was a point in time where like I even had like whole episodes with like spin-off titles about Drag Race, and people were like, "Okay, Andrea, like calm down." And so some of it is testing too. Like I like it, but my people don't like it that much. So I have to use my Drag Race references sparingly, otherwise people start tuning out. And I think this is the beauty of marketing, right? Like we can have fun with it, we can test things and play and stuff, but at the end of the day, we kind of have to look at the data and move forward. Do you have any examples of that where you're like, I really love this, and then people were like, okay, Michelle, calm down?
Well, I think with your specific example, it's really good because it makes you say like this is something that we have to figure out as personal brands
Yeah.
is like what is the level of excitement that like for specific things that I want to bring, and does it make sense and does it enhance my brand or does it take away from it? And like you said, sometimes you're like, ooh, got caught up, got caught up. That doesn't resonate as much as I want. And I mean, like I talk about this is not the same, but but I am the coach for my girls softball teams and I'm like talking about it in stories all the time, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know that everyone actually cares that much about this. And it's okay to layer it in and it's okay for it to be a thing, but just to be like just aware that we get to be very intentional about how we build our brands, and part of that intention is listening and saying like, and just like reading the room, the energy, like are people, is this bringing people in or is it repelling people? And and I mean, like sometimes it's like, well, maybe that does repel people. That's fine. Is it repelling the right people, or is it, people that are my people that I'm trying to talk to? Is it repelling them, or is it bringing them closer? And so I think just like paying attention to that, and just know that you're probably very few people, very few marketers, very few personal brands are going to just like ruin it with one post. There are people who have, and we could dive into that. But like, but like, but very few of us with these kind of things, we're not going to ruin it. So we can test things out, um, and see how it feels to post, see how the energy that comes back feels.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to get back to that ruining moment because I think we need to talk about that. But I do have a nosy question that popped up earlier for me, which is you talked about, posting about your girls' soccer practices. Was it soccer or
Softball,
softball?
softball.
Softball. And so this is like a boundaries question because I think some people, me included, feel hesitant to put our kids or our families online, or even like our personal lives and things like that. So, especially for personal brands, how do you decide this for yourself? Like, where are your own boundaries when it comes to social media?
Really great question. So my kids, my content is not dependent on my kids. That is something I feel very passionate about. And I'm not an influencer, so I can do that, right? But we all have to figure out what that boundary is for ourselves. So it's mostly in my stories that I talk about softball, and I don't share anyone else on the team, right? And I don't share much about my girls. But one of the things, like my connecting points with my audience, is that I'm a mom and I'm running an agency and a business, and I still have time for softball. So it is a part of my story that I want to underline, but I share enough to know that it's happening, but I'm not like, I take my kids, I have 5 kids. I have a senior in high school, down to a 9-year-old. And so like, it's one thing to share your kids when they're little, but I have my son's friends follow me on Instagram. So I
Mm.
am very aware. And I will ask them, like, hey, like if I'm sharing something about our family or sharing a family picture, I'm like, hey, you good with this or not? And because I have an adult, he's 18, he's graduating. And I have to respect that he's an adult. And I also have to respect that my kids are going to be adults. And do I want people to know all of the stuff about them? Now, with my softball teams, I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old girls who both play softball. And that's about, I mean, you feel close, like you like know what's going on, but you don't actually know specifics. And that's kind of where my line is. And I asked my kids, and like, do you want me to share about this or not? And because again, my content is not dependent on my kids, but me as a mom, people knowing that I'm a mom and that I'm doing this, I want that energy to be like, and you can do it too. And so I do share some glimpses into my motherhood.
Yeah, I love that. And like I'm a new mom, so I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Oh
And I
man, you got
love
it.
seeing stuff. I know. When you said 5 kids, like my heart panicked. Like I was like, oh my God, never. I mean, bless you. Good for you.
One is
Um,
harder than 5 almost. I don't know. One's a lot.
listen, I could make a whole podcast series on having 2 kids versus 1 because I feel like I was tricked, but I love them. I love them very much. No, but it is one of those things too where for me right now in this period in my life, when I look at people who I admire, like other business owners, other content creators, I am looking for people who have similar lives to me, right? People who I feel like I can follow their advice because, they're in it with me. People who like, it doesn't even have to be kids. Like it could be, maybe they're taking care of aging parents or they have chronic illness or, there's something where it's like, the Gary V model doesn't fit. Like wake up at 6 a.m., post literally all day and
No,
respond. Like we don't have time for that. Like we're living
no.
our lives. And so that's
Yeah.
why I like that you reflect that back too. I want to circle back though to this idea of posting content and getting a negative response because we've all seen it. We've all seen it. And I think that I have my own theories, but I'm curious to hear yours about, when we do cross that line, when we do post something insensitive or we get feedback from our community that they're like, hey, we don't like this. How do we navigate those situations with like grace?
Yeah, I think that at least the audience that I am trying to build is pretty forgiving because they know that I'm just doing the best I can. So if I said something that was insensitive or that, like looking back, I'm like, oof, that wasn't great, I would hope that I mean, public relations is my background. That's like what I majored in, and anyway, how I first started in business, and really just like owning up to it and being like, darn it. Okay, let's move on. Like this is what I'm going to do better or whatever. But I mean, that's if we're doing something that maybe was hurtful or harmful. If it's like playful and it's just like, oh, that didn't resonate. And like I got bad comments, then it's like, I will look and see where those comments are coming from, because if they're my people and it's like, oh, Michelle, this was a bad showing, I'm going to look at that and self-reflect and say, yeah, is that true? And what do I need to change? Because I will tell you, I am not here to be perfect. And I know that I am not, and I'm very aware of that. And so um, I don't think I need to, let's see, not every comment that is given to me has the same value to me, because you have passersby who have no idea who I am. One of my first viral reels a couple years ago was like, listen, I was newly back to the gym. I was rowing on on the rowing machine and doing a real bad job of it. But by darn, I was there. Anyway, so I just posted a B-roll video of me rowing with like something else on the screen. And that blew up because people are real passionate about rowing form, apparently.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. And every time I'm like, okay, I'm better than I was 2.5 years ago. But it's also, you see, like those moments are funny because I'm like, I mean, that means very little about me as a person, how I row. So those are the things that I'm looking at, is like, there's a self-reflection. Is this from someone that I value their opinion, who knows who I am? And if not, then I'm like, but if so, I say, oh, okay, like, what do I need to learn from that? And how can I do better and be better? Or just maybe be clearer? Because I've said some things where people have said, oh, Michelle, have you thought about this? And I was like, oh, we're on the same page, but I obviously wasn't clear enough. And so then that helps me refine my message. And I can't be, I think my job as a content creator and as an educator and as a thought leader is to consistently and constantly be refining my message. And so that's going to take, like, refinement doesn't come from everyone saying, you're great. Keep saying it. That those edges are knocked off only through people pushing back and saying, like, how you said that wasn't quite right. And so just being like humble and aware of that, I think just goes such a long way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that this is actually a good problem to have, because when we're putting ourselves out there online and people are having a response to it, that means they're paying attention, right? That means our content actually got reached by people. And so we're getting that feedback loop, that positive feedback loop or negative feedback loop. At least we're getting some sort of traction and engagement. But I want to talk about the other side of this, because a problem that I'm hearing a lot of people have right now, especially on Instagram, is that dang algorithm is not showing our dang posts, right? So what do we do? Like, is it too crowded? What's the deal?
Well, some really great changes happened with the algorithm, and the algorithm is not out to get you. So I need people to just breathe that in. The algorithm is not out to get you.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt, write it down every morning, the mantra. But what we have to understand is, yes, there are more people creating online, and there are more people online than ever and on Instagram. And the algorithm, the whole goal of the algorithm is to understand who you are and to play matchmaker with people who it thinks will like your content. The algorithm is actually trying to match us up with the right people. And there's some things that get in the way of that. And one of those is that we don't niche down. We're not clear on our content. So I'm all about like looking at my content and saying, am I attracting the right person? Am I consistent in my messaging? Am I using keywords so Instagram understands what I'm talking about? And am I doing that on a consistent basis? And if I'm not, then that's on me that the algorithm doesn't understand me, And then so I will look at that. Then I'll also look at, what does the algorithm want? So the algorithm, especially for our content, it is looking for engagement cues. So some of those are, the most valuable ones are sharing and liking. That's what they told us. And then we have commenting and saving. Those are next. But you have to think about, okay, if I want my content to be seen by more people, then yeah, shares make sense, right? Because that person is sharing it with someone else or sharing it to their stories. And so more people are seeing it. And so I need to start creating content with that in mind. So we have this huge tool. We have this huge platform that has millions and millions of people on it. And a huge portion are your audience. And we have this algorithm that's trying to figure out, like, who are you and how can I show you to the right people so more people stay on Instagram? So it is worth understanding and learning how Instagram works for you and how the algorithm works, and then creating specific content that will work on Instagram. So short form content, there are skills that, like, creating short form content is a skill. It's not a gift bestowed from heaven. It is a skill that you, I mean, yes, there's people that are better at it naturally, but this is a skill that you can learn. And so if you want to start using Instagram to its fullest, you've got to start paying attention to, how am I creating short form videos? Do I have a hook within the first 3 seconds, visual and written hook? Is it something that is, have I been ruthless in editing it so that it's not longer than it needs to be and my watch time goes up? We have to start thinking more like mini YouTube creators, because if you're a YouTube creator, you're thinking about all of this all the time, right? But for Instagram, we're getting better at search. The search engine's getting better. They promise it'll continue to get better, and the algorithm's getting better. So we have to be committed to being better content creators. And the thing that is the coolest thing about the algorithm now, this switch happened or started to happen a year ago, and it finished up in, I think, February, where it does not matter how many followers you have. It's a content-based algorithm. So if your content is good, no matter how many followers you have, it can go to millions. And I just want you to think, any other time in the world, when we have had this opportunity, this option to show up, create a 30-second video that takes us 9 hours. Just kidding. It doesn't have to be, but you create this little video and it can reach millions of people, all while you're sitting at your daughter's softball game. Okay, maybe I'd stop complaining and figure out how to make it work, right? And it's a lot of work. And Instagram, I think one of the biggest problems, or the hardest thing to overcome with Instagram, is we consume a lot of content as creators. We consume a lot personally, and then it's really hard to switch our brain around to using it professionally. And so that switch is really hard. And so we have a couple things coming at us, right? When we're using it for business, we have in our brain, like, you're wasting time. You're wasting time. You're on Instagram. Look at what your screen time is, and and it's like, yeah, you have that voice going, especially if you're a mom or you have kids or other responsibilities. You feel like you shouldn't be on social media. It's bad. But then but it's like, oh, but it's actually one of the marketing arms of my business. And if it were any other marketing arm, we would take it seriously, right? We would look at it differently and start looking at analytics, and we'd be showing up in different ways based on the responses of our audience. And then we start using Instagram as a business instead of as a consumer, and instead of feeling like it's bowling us over and we don't know what to do.
Yeah. Okay. I know you were joking when you said a 30-second video takes 9 hours, but my brain latched onto that because, okay, so here's the thing. I feel like you nailed it when you said creating content is a skill that can be learned. But what I've seen in my experience is that as adults, especially, we don't want to learn something new. Like, we just want to know. We just want to open it up and go, I know how to use this. And then we don't, we get frustrated, and it does take some time. But once we do get there, we can create content. But I'm curious about, you specifically, and then also your clients, because I do think marketers, we spend more time on social media than like I was gonna say normal people. Are we normal? No,
I don't know.
We spend more time than normal people. So how much time are you spending, and then how much time do you recommend other people spend on Insta?
Wow, how much time am I spending? I'm at least spending a couple hours a day on Instagram. That is easy. Like, either creating content, consuming content, looking at my clients, I'm at least a couple hours, because, as we're strategizing for clients, I am researching, I'm looking at data, that it's just a little bit different. As far as what other people should do, I need you to make a conscious decision, and not even a decision, but just an awareness of how much marketing how much is Instagram a part of your marketing strategy? So if it is 100% a part of your that's your whole marketing strategy is Instagram, buckle up, sit down, you need to get good at it. If you are paying ads and that's how you're getting, and you just need Instagram to be a resume, then you can scale back. If you are a business and you're big enough to hire a team, you have to think about, am I going to hire workers, or am I going to hire skilled people? And am I willing to invest in this? Because, you can find people who know how to use Instagram, right? Anyway, and they just show up and they post stuff and you're like, that's not a strategy. And so we have to start looking at Instagram differently. Like, it is serious and it is 100%. Like, if it's 100% of our marketing strategy, then that changes things. So you have to look at your budget, whether that's time or money. And also, like, what are you expecting Instagram to do? And is your energy and time and money matching what you need that marketing channel to do?
Yes. Yes. All of it has to flow because there's a hierarchy here. You can't go like, I'm going to spend equal amounts of time on Instagram as everything else in my business if it's not a priority, right? I love that. So what do you think consistency looks like, especially for the solo entrepreneurs, the small business owners who are out here on these Instagram streets trying to figure it out? What does consistency look like?
Streets are hard out there.
Yeah.
Um, consistency looks like, I'm going to go back to my last answer, but it's going to look like what you can budget for. So I want you to make a conscious decision. A lot of people are like, well, I can only post 3 times a week. Cool. I love that. Do that, And if you understand your audience, if you've created enough content that you know what your audience likes, I do think you can create less content. If you don't know, and you don't know how to create content, you don't know how to do hooks, you don't know how to edit, you don't know how the type of thing that your audience is going to resonate with, then I say create a ton of content. Like, just put stuff out there because you don't know what works yet and you don't know how to do it. And I say that because if you just like numbers, right? Analytics. Like, if you post 2 times a week, okay, that's 8 times in a month. And then you have someone who's posting 5 times a week, that's 20 posts. So they are going to get better 2.5 times faster than you are because you haven't put in the time to do it. And you're also like, as I'm looking at analytics and as clients come on, I'm like, well, okay, the analytics for someone who's posting 8 times a month, there's just only so much information I can get compared to someone who's doing like 20, 30 posts a month. And so again, that doesn't mean everyone should post every day because that might stress someone out and they become homeless on these Instagram streets. But I I don't want you to do that. But I do think that you need to start thinking like real seriously about do I know what my audience likes, and am I good? Do I know what I'm good at yet and how my voice is best used? If the answer is no, well, let's figure it out. Let's take a month, let's test some stuff out and put a ton of content out there. I do like a Reel of challenge every 6 months where I'm like, hey, this is the audio you're doing, this is the hook you're doing, and like this, like I just tell people what to post. And the people who show up for those 30 days and they do it, like they change. Either their numbers change or they change because they suddenly know how to do stuff and they realize that they've been making content creation way too hard. So you got to get consistent, like with knowing exactly like what is your goal with Instagram, and then what's your budget, time and money that you can put towards Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've been talking a lot about like micro video content, the Instagram Reels specifically. But one of the things too about Instagram that I feel so bad for like new people to Instagram, because if you're just logging in for the first time, it's like, okay, we have Reels, we have carousels, we have static posts, we have stories. I know they're getting rid of notes, but those are their broadcast channels. Like, what the heck? So when you're talking about, Reels, for instance, do you think that's where we should put most of our energy right now? There's also been a rumor that carousel posts are making a comeback. Like, what are you seeing on your end?
So carousels are making a comeback, and if you put music behind them, then they are able to show up on a Reels feed, in your Reels feed. So if you're doing carousels, add some music, whether you turn it down or whatever. But then you can get in the Reels. So the reason why Reels are usually where I tell people to start is because the Reels algorithm is different than the other algorithms in that it's pushing your content faster and easier out to people who don't follow you yet. And so if you want to grow, like do that. But carousels are coming around, and especially now that carousels are being able to be used in the Reel feed, you just got to make sure as you're creating these carousels that you can say like, why would anyone care about this? Because a lot of people are just like using them as 2010 blog posts, like 5 steps to creating a diet plan,
Not the 2010 blog post. I feel called out.
I just know it personally. Anyway, and so like, where it's like, no one's going to click on that. Like 5 steps to your next morning routine. Those hooks don't work anymore because they're just like telling you there's no curiosity gap. There's no bringing you in. There's no like, what's in it for me? And so I think that sometimes, unless you're a great writer and you already know like the stories that you're going to tell and you can bring people with you. And if you're that side, then carousels are going to be great for you. If you're like, writing and telling stories, like I don't want to do that, then reels are going to be easier.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. No, the 2010 blog post is like so just like I knew exactly what you were talking about. I was like, oh, so I think so this is what I've been talking. This is what I've been talking about a lot too. That 2010 blog post line is going to stay with me, because it is the shift from how to content to how I content. So I think this is where personal brands are really shining through because we don't need more information. We're in the age of information overload. Like we literally don't need more how to. We want to know how you specifically do it. Like, so when I talk about things like, I wake up, I don't feel like posting. What am I doing? That's what I'm doing specifically versus like, if you wake up and you don't feel posting, here's what you need to do. And it feels very like you should eat your vegetables. And so I feel like that's really the 2010 blog post vibe is like eat your vegetables versus 2025, the elevated is like, okay, I don't feel like eating my vegetables. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And I feel like that like reality TV show, like let's go with me behind the scenes and let's do all of this. I feel like that's really what's working right now with content. Is there anything else that you're seeing that really stands out to you with like, oh, this is the type of content that's really performing well right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly what you're saying because we can find any information we want and we can go to ChatGPT and it will get a summary of all the information out there. But what we really want are we want experts that will curate it for us. So we want someone else that lives a life that we want to live to tell us what works for them. Like that's what this is all about, right? Is that we've suddenly we have AI, we can all find out whatever we want, and that type of information will be less valuable than what you're saying, right? Which is like, listen, I got 2 kids, like your life, and explaining like I'm recording podcasts. This is what I do before my podcast to make sure I'm ready or whatever, because then we're like, oh, that's how she does it. And my life looks like hers, or I want my life to look like hers. And so as AI becomes, I mean, it's already huge, right? But we're going to see it integrated so much more. And really, it's going to come down to that personal connection and building, like being that curator for people. Like, listen, yeah, you can go get the 10 steps from ChatGPT, but let me tell you how I do it as this type of person. So that's where I see things going is like the facts are going to be good and you're going to have to know them. We're going to have to know more because it's the application that's really going to be the valuable part.
Yeah, I feel like this is just the age of AI too.
Yeah.
Is that like the knowledge piece is not going to be enough. It's how we apply it that's really going to make the difference. It can be scary. It can be scary, but I do think there are ways that AI can help us in this next stage. To me, it reminds me of like when I was in like the second grade or third grade. I distinctly remember one of my teachers making me do math. And I was like, but I have this calculator. Can I use the calculator? And she was like, no, you have to know how to do it because you're not going to be carrying a calculator in your pocket all the time. And now look at me now, Miss Anderson. I have a calculator in my pocket all the time. And so that's how AI feels to me right now, where it's like some people are like, oh, you have to do the manual work of it all. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to do the manual work. Don't get me wrong. But like, if there's a calculator, I'm going to use the calculator. So I say all that to say, I'm curious how you are using AI, aka the calculator, in your like marketing day to day.
Yeah. So, well, sometimes I have little chats with ChatGPT, and I'm like, "Hey, this is a decision I'm making," and I list all the details, and then it comes back to me, and it's like, Michelle, I think you already know the answer, but this is what I recommend. And it's funny. Anyway, that did happen. Like where like I need to talk through something because I'm a verbal processor, and so I have it on my phone. I just speak into it and I'm like, hey, here are the details of my business. I also am restructuring some of my products. And so I was like, hey, let me tell you what my products are. These are the price points. This is my revenue goal. Can you make a map for me this year of when I should launch and how many I need to sell of each to get there? And it can, like, those are things that I would have figured out, right? But it would have taken me 20 minutes and I'd had to have stopped and pulled out my phone calculator. But this,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm on the go. Like, I'm in the car. I was running errand, like taking my kids to practice, doing stuff. And I was like, oh, I got to figure out like my numbers. And so I was just talking to it. So that's something I was like, that's just a practical thing. I've had quite a few like speeches that I have had to give the last month or so. And write, I would write it and write like sections. And I would say, okay, ChatGPT, I need you to make this more, because because my background is PR. I'm a very like newspaper writer where I'm like, these are the facts.
Yes.
And so I was like, could you add a little bit for storytelling and make this a little stronger? And it just shifted it a little bit, but it made it stronger. I've been doing the same thing with, so I'm the first draft and been doing that with Substack and just saying like, hey, this is the story. This is, and because I'm a verbal processor and I have my own podcast, like speaking it is easier than writing it for me. So it can write down whatever I say, add some things. So, and I'm using it for that kind of thing, for editing my content, that kind of stuff, as well as analyzing data and just making and streamlining the process, which feels scary, I think, right now, because it feels like it's taking away the creativity, because it's like, well, we're not creating all of it. And I'm like, no, I'm not creating the dumb parts, the parts that I don't want to do. I do not want to do that part, right? And it's actually opening me up to be more creative, because like those little things that are not necessarily, maybe not my strong suit, or like stuff that, like, speaking is easier. Speaking it into existence is easier than typing it into existence for me. And so I'm using my skills, like I'm just better at speaking it out and it's turning it into something that can be written or, could be published, and I can edit it. And so what I decided to do is I'm like, listen, we're all scared of AI and we feel overwhelmed by it. And so I'm like, I'm going to just start using it. I'm just going to use it. And if I think about it, I'm going to pick it up, download it on your phone, and I'm going to use it. And just doing that has opened me up to like more and more ways that I can use it to streamline my business and to take away some of the unnecessary parts to creating.
Yeah, I think that's the key, streamlining it. Yeah, it's faster. But again, it's like our calculator. Sure, you can, be all precious about doing long division manually. Good for you. I'm glad you could do that. But real life, everyday stuff, like, I mean, as long as we get to the same answer and we're still using our human brains, I think it's great. Okay. So as we wrap up this conversation, one of the things I want to ask you about is really this mindset piece when it comes to creating content. And especially now, like this episode comes out, we're heading into summer. Those of us with the kids, we're like, all right, summer mode. So over the next 30 days, what's something that we can think about, a mental shift that we can make to really strengthen our approach to creating content on Instagram and really everywhere in our marketing?
Yeah, I would definitely put it on the calendar. So, as creatives, I don't really believe in being like, this is how you create content. So, some people really like to batch, and other people, like, that makes them want to die, like batching a whole ton of content. And there's obviously some power and some benefits to batching. But if you dread it all the time, then I don't love that. So, one of the things is like, you either say on Mondays, I do all my video, and I'm just going to like, I'm going to get my makeup on, I'm going to get ready, and we're going to do all the video and do a bunch all at once and just video it and batch it in the different stages of the content creation process. I also know some people who like to like just schedule on their calendar that every day I have 30 minutes that I'm going to create something, so that it's more a part of their like everyday routine. But it doesn't happen unless you put it on a schedule and on a calendar and treat it like in a meeting that you would show up for. Because what usually happens is you want to create on Instagram, but then you don't, right? And then you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh man, I should have posted. And then you scroll on Instagram for like an hour looking for ideas. And then you find something and then you're like, I'm just going to post this. And so you just post it. And then you're like, that didn't do well. And then you're like, Instagram's the worst. The algorithm hates me, right? And you actually haven't taken time to create intentional strategic content or calculated time and put in your calendar time when you're going to analyze what is working and what isn't. So as far as that goes, you need to start treating Instagram like it's part of your business and not just a last thing like that you put on, the end of your list that you're like, well, I know this is important, but I really hate it because the algorithm hates me because I'm not getting what I want. And it's like, well, if you showed up on Instagram or showed up for Instagram like you're showing up for like creating your product or creating your courses or teaching your whatever type of entrepreneur you are, then your Instagram content would change. And so would how Instagram can help and serve your business.
100%. It's your responsibility as a business owner to treat marketing seriously in your business. I totally agree. And I love that you said, you can kind of play with it, whether you like batching or you like doing things day by day. I mean, there are different seasons in my life where I do both. Like sometimes I'm like batch queen, like right now, batching all the way, like makeup every day is not for me right now. But there are some days where periods in my life where, I like to create content every day. That's actually my preferred method of doing it, is creating content every day. But like with a 1-year-old at home where I'm literally recording podcast episodes while she's napping, it's not going to happen every day. So for me, I gotta plan ahead. So, you get to decide this, but you gotta treat your marketing seriously. I love that you emphasize that. Okay. So for everyone listening who's like, I love this, I'm limited on time. I know you've got, Michelle, this like weekly trend thingy. Plus, I love how you not only give the trends, but then you tell us exactly how to apply them. Tell me more about it.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a membership that you can join, and I'll give you a week for free to test it out, where we are sending like the trends that are happening that week. We send that out, and then with examples and a description of how you can apply it to your business. Because, I mean, looking for the right trend is actually the worst waste of time. That like it's so hard, right? You go on there and you're like, oh, okay, I like this, but how many times has it been used? And like, how can I apply it to your business? So we're streamlining that for you so that you can like just start creating content in a lot faster. So that's called the Instant Content Club. We'd love to have you. And if you use Mindful Marketing, you can get a week for free.
I love that. Okay, we're going to put that link and the code in the description, OnlineDrea.com/363. Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Yes, and thank you, dear listener, for tuning into another episode of the Mindful Marketing Podcast. If you love this conversation and you want to learn more about how to apply marketing in your business, come to our Social Media Day Summit. Okay, we're doing a free Social Media Day Summit, a live panel on June 30th. That's a Monday. Okay. Come join me and some special guests where we talk about the state of social media, especially y'all keep talking about the algorithm. We're going to talk about the algorithm. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about it all. You can get your questions answered, but you got to show up live for that. Go to OnlineDrea.com/SMD. That's Social Media Day SMD. And that link will be in the show notes as well. I have another episode coming for you next Tuesday. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you then. Bye for now.